Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger's supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 30 of The Captain's Heart. Cursor. He brought up the feed from the engineering eatery again. Jeremy looked to be fine. He was talking with Kelsirians. There was clearly translating happening, but he looked at ease. Maybe Queric had misread what had happened. Although Turuk's report about Jeremy having been ordered to return to work by his commander seemed to support the ambassador's worry. Is it the ambassador's worries? Maybe Jeremy had worked it out. Maybe him being on the ship, away from those influencing how he felt, was good for him. Maybe he should see about keeping him here, where he'd be safe. Against his will? Was Gralgiran so desperate that he'd abduct Jeremy? It was people meddling. He had to trust that the gods were better at it, even if he felt like screaming at them for letting this happen. He shut down the feed and returned to reading reports. He had work to do. He needed to focus on that instead of worrying. He looked at the sandy fur mailed in the regeneration tube. Did they tell you anything? He asked the unconscious male. When they caused this to you so I'd meet my heart, did they have the decency to tell you why you had to go through this? I'm not aware the god speaks to any but the seers, the doctor said, her tone forcefully neutral. They did this to him. An explanation is the least they owe him. Then maybe he'll tell you when he wakes. Any idea when that'll happen? Her expression clouded over. No. He should be awake by now, was what she'd muttered the last time. Gralgiran nodded. Alex would wake when the gods decided, not before. Rest, my friend. You are going to need your energy when you learn that Jeremy's been repairing your reactor. I expect you'll scream at me until your roar gives out for allowing this to happen, regardless of what the gods willed. He ignored the annoyed look the doctor gave him as he left. The archway to engineering was in sight when he realized where his mindless walk had taken him. He almost went in, despite Queric's warning. Couldn't it be considered to be the gods that had guided his steps? If they had brought him here, shouldn't he stop looking for excuses? He wanted to see Jeremy, to ask if he was fine. He wanted reassurance that they were making progress, in spite of Doe's meddling. He turned around. He couldn't risk making things worse. He knelt before the two flags hanging on his bedroom wall, trying not to implore Ravnir and Gralgiran to intervene in whatever just Billiam was doing. How could he act for them when she was driving him to insanity with worry? Tom placed a hand on his, kneeling at his side. He's going to be fine. They are looking after him. He turned his hand and grasped Tom's, holding it tight, trying to pull some of his friend's confidence into him. He was better at sitting back, studying the unknown and waiting to see what came from it. Part of what made him such a good pilot. Gralgiran always did better with clear goals. He could wait when he saw the progress. He could deal with the unknown when he was actively working against it. These times of waiting for that unknown to reveal itself to him, those he could do without. Update, he declared as he stepped onto the bridge. I'm in their public security feed. Tekineres answered. I can't tell you anything of use from that. The Earthers are going about their business as Earthers do, I guess. There seems to be tension among the people in charge, Kegriel said. I haven't confirmed who, since they aren't that free with their information, but there's definitely 2 of them, possibly 3, whose tension is spreading to the people around them. Also, more encrypted communications leaving the station than just a few days ago. Destination? Unknown Alpha. But if I was to guess, wherever their superiors are? Scans have shaved? Showed. Oh, okay, shaved, as in removed. Uh, Scans have shaved more of where they can't be keeping their antimatter, Searsier said, but that still leaves a lot of places. Nothing usable, nothing for him to claw at and distract himself with. Then he had to claw the wind. Okay, that doesn't quite. In that case, he had to claw at the wind. All right, I want theories. If the Earthers have more antimatter than they reported, how are they getting it? There's the usual way. Naertilis said they're producing it. Then why lie about it? Kikdale replied. The Federation doesn't dictate how little or how much they can make, just the quantities they are allowed to import from other species. How can we determine if they are producing more than they are reporting? Gralgiran asked. It's possible the treaty they agreed to wasn't clear as to what the limitations were, and they don't want to risk being rejected. Then sticking to the rules should be how they go about it, Caesar said. As for finding out, we don't have anything like the sensors needed for that, unless it's happening right here. But I'd have to read the literature on the literature to know what to look for. I doubt it's happening here, Tikaniris said. The production facility back on Knisfrog is spread over 100 times the area of the station, and I think it's pretty standard for antimatter production. He looked at them in the following silence. My class visited it as part of learning what made home important to Kelser. Then we're looking at something deep within Earther territory, Cercer mused. That means one of the scanning array, but that means uh yeah, that okay. That means one of the scanning array. That okay. Okay, that need need one of the scanning arrays. But they'd have to have been producing for well over 100 years for whatever a place like that emits to reach the closest one. So we can't confirm how they're doing it. So we can't confirm how they're doing it. Other ways. There's always a Tahornian. Kagrik said they share a border with the Earthers. Too. Kelsar and Tahun had also shared a border, as they did with a few other species. And because of that, the vastness of space, there were a lot of unclaimed territories within those shared borders. It was how Kelsar had discovered the Earthers, mapping one of the largest mapping no, mapping the largest one, looking for planets to establish colonies as justification for expanding their territories. Their territory is singular. How do we prove if they are violating the trade limits? If, Nahertilis asked with derision. Their production level should be on record, Tikaniris said. If you can trust those, Nahertilis said. It's the Tahornians, after all. Not to say they could be selling what they take from the ships they attack, plural, they attack. Tikaniris said. Production is on record. You know what? I'm going to make that, Sarah. Just have to find his spelling. Serzier. Serzier said, how much do we keep for our reactors? For our reactors. A lot more than merchant ship would, Kikdale replied. The Earthers would still be willing to pay good money for more if they're going through as much as is suspected and aren't producing enough. Good, I'll take that cent, Gralgiran said. It didn't matter how unlikely he'd have anything to sink his claws in. While he hunted, he wouldn't be thinking about Jeremy. He sat at his desk and placed requests for Terhonian, as well as what the Federation had on Earther finances. While waiting to receive that, he pulled up piracy report. What ships had been targeted, how much antimatter had gone missing on them, what hadn't been accounted for on the black market, and started teasing cents apart. Dungeon! Brunel yelled as Gralgiran pushed himself off the floor where the impact with the heavy ball had sent him. Little Mary offered her hand and pulled him to his feet. That's 6 for the champions and 4 for the pretenders. She shoulder-checked Tom and Miritel. If you admit defeat now, we'll have time to wash. Some of us enjoy the assistance while washing. And then be treated to the most wonderful meal at Asheran's delight. A hunter doesn't admit defeat, Brolin, he replied, grasping the large ball and lifting it. Its weight wouldn't be felt until he released it, adding to the strength he put behind the throw. A hunter must be defeated, and there's plenty of time for us to snatch victory from your maw, and then, while the pleasure of the shower with Tom and Dresden will be short, you will be treating us to Marinar. Please win, Dresden called to Berlin, and Gralgiran stared at his game partner. Everything Marinar makes is hot. I don't have that burn-proof tongue of yours. I want to be able to go home and taste the mother of my children when I lick her. Their sauces are not that spicy, he grumbled, raised the ball and launched it as hard as he could at Berlin. And then, Berlin said, barely holding back the laugh, Gralgiran just throws himself at the Dromian, thinking he can subdue someone twice his size. She lifted the now fully dripped cube of meat and popped it into her mouth. Our instructors always said that it isn't the size of the fighter that matters. The fighters that matter, he offered in his defense, but how skilled they are. I was fully trained among the better to pass. Fully trained among the better? The fighters. Fully trained. Oh no, I was fully trained among the better, the best. Okay, one that's going to be among the better to pass the combat class. That Dromian was nothing more than some underbelly station trash. He grinned at Dresden as he put the roll of meat between his lips, then slurped it into his mouth. His friend had sworn he hadn't thrown the game, but Gralgiran had still made him suffer by spending the little shower they had demonstrating what he was missing on Tom. Considering how much he was spending on this meal for all of them, he felt justified in having some fun at Dresden's expenses. Expense singular. Yeah, under station trash undefeated champion of the illegal fighting clubs we had been sent to bring to an end. She laughed. No one told me that, Gralgiran declared. How long were you in that regen tube? She teased. 2 weeks, Tom said, grinning. 3 days. Needless to say, our good captain was quite pent up. And that station's lodging wasn't all that good with soundproofing, she added. Wait, Dresden said. You two being there, I get hunters on their first deployment, but you're a pilot, Tom. What were you doing on that end of nowhere station? Okay, pilot would not be capitalized in this case. I don't know that pilots, as a rule, would have the equivalent of engineer, doctors, and that kind of stuff, mechanics, that kind of stuff. Tom smiled. Why, my dear friend, do you believe that even a pilot as talented as I will find a way to avoid the usual crap posting when I left the flight academy? I was on a garbage barge going from one end of space station to another for a whole 6 years, and let me tell you, running into this one days before he ended up in the tube made my stay in that system a whole lot more fun. He grinned at Gralgiran. Believe it or not, I had managed to forget how fun you were in those 3 years we were in different academies. And you have no idea how glad I was you were still there when they took me out. I was not looking forward to tracking down whatever other Kelsirians had ended up in that place for some relief. I offered, Berlin said, smiling. You do remember that one time we gave it a try, right? He replied, grinning back, and her ears folded back. Wait, Latimir said. You two had sex? I thought you only slept with males. I wasn't entirely certain of that back then. And I can be quite persuasive, she added. And it was that bad? He asked. Eh. Yeah, come back here. Litamir asked. Unsatisfying is how I'd describe it. Gralgiran said, I'm glad I had the experience with a friend, but that confirmed females do nothing for me sexually. Litamir looked at Berlin. Have you ever been with a partner who, no matter how willing they want to be, can't quite work up the energy to really put their all into it? Like he said, highly unsatisfying. At least the barracks had other people there, so we didn't have to stay with that memory for long. Gralgiran raised his glass of Teres. 2 lessons learned, friendship maintained, and built. The others, plural, raised their glasses to match, and they continued to enjoy the meal and company. And that concludes chapter 30 of The Captain's Heart. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, if you've enjoyed this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story, it is up on Ream Story. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.